This is a moral moment in America. I was at my church yesterday, the Ebenezer Baptist Church, where we held our annual service in memory of Dr. King, and I can tell you that in Georgia and all across our country, politicians did yesterday what they do every year. They lined up and they offered platitudes and praises to Martin Luther King Jr. On MLK weekend, everybody loves Martin Luther King Jr. And I have to sometimes sit there and wonder who they're talking about. And it is because as we have pushed forward this debate on voting rights, I've been hearing arguments against this legislation, and those arguments have sounded uncannily familiar to me as a student of the civil rights movement, and I was asking myself why. And then I realized that as Dr. King and others were pushing forward civil rights and voting rights, people didn't necessarily stand up and say, no, we don't believe black people should vote. What did they do? They pushed forward states' rights arguments. And these are the kinds of arguments that I've been hearing in this chamber in 2022. Let us be very clear. The legislation that we are proposing provides a baseline of standards that ensures that every eligible American can vote. The states still administer their elections. And as the pastor of Ebenezer Church, where Martin Luther King Jr. preached, I take great umbrage with members of this body who are arguing that somehow this is a federal takeover. They are marshaling old states' rights arguments, the same arguments that Faubus used, Governor Faubus, in response to Brown versus Board of Education. The same arguments used by Richard B. Russell of Georgia when he wanted to stand in the way of civil rights. The same arguments used by Strom Thurmond when he had the largest filibuster in the history of the Senate arguing against voting rights. What did he argue? He argued for states' rights. And that's what we've been hearing in recent days. And so let the message go out. You cannot remember Martin Luther King Jr. and dismember his legacy at the same time. You can argue whatever side you want, but you do not get to argue both sides. You do not get to offer praises and plaudits, praises and platitudes in memory of Dr. King, and marshal the same kinds of states' rights arguments that were used against the civil rights movement and against Martin Luther King Jr. And so this is a moral moment. And you have to decide. Now, we're one nation. E pluribus unum, out of many one. And that's what voting rights ensures, that people from various backgrounds get to speak. And at the end of the day, the people have their say. And right in Georgia right now, they're trying to get rid of ballot drop boxes in the middle of a pandemic. Why? Who does that serve? Who are they trying to help? Come on, give me a break. Who are they trying to help by proposing that they get rid of drop boxes in the middle of a pandemic? They're trying to take over the Fulton County Board of Elections. We know what they're up to. And everywhere I go in Georgia, my constituents are saying, stand up for voting rights, stand up for the voices of the people. The democracy belongs to them and not the politicians. And that's what I intend to do, and that's what we intend to do.